Well, hello and welcome to this live edition of the Profit by Design podcast. We are going to have a really fun and enlightening episode today. I get to interview Michael Watts, who is our latest Great Place to Work Spotlight recipient here at Tap the Potential. And the Great Place to Work Spotlight is really designed to spotlight business owners who, like Michael, are putting significant attention on creative workplaces where A players want to work. And the reason we do the Great Place to Work spotlights is because we know at Tap the Potential that when you have a clear strategy and intention behind your actions, that there are simple steps that you can take to make your business a great place to work so that you attract the A players that you want on your team. And so I love bringing our business owners who are in the Great Place to Work spotlight onto the podcast to share their story, because I believe it'll inspire you for what's possible and that you can take similar small steps forward with intention, with strategy, and have a significant impact. So before we dive into our interview, I want to share with you that we record the Profit by Design podcast live here every Friday, 11:30 Central, across YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So be sure to join us. We do giveaways when we're recording live. And if you're commenting in the chat as we're recording, we want your participation. I think Michael would love it if you asked him questions. I would too. Or if you share something that really resonates with you, just give a thumbs up or high five in the chat. And one lucky participant in the chat will receive a copy, a signed copy of my latest book, The 4-Week Vacation. So, and if you are watching this later, feel free to use the hashtag replay as you're commenting in the chat, because I will do a giveaway for those of you who are watching it later as well. So we'll actually have 2 giveaways of the book. And finally, if you have a friend or a business colleague who's struggling with hiring and you think they might benefit from hearing Michael's story, tag them in the chat so they become aware and have this opportunity to hear Michael's story. It's going to be incredibly inspiring. Also, I want to let you know that the How to Hire the Best course registration is open. If you would like to join us to learn how to become that employer of choice so that you can attract the A players you want to your team, head on over to tapthepotential.com/course. So with no further ado, I want to introduce our guest today, Michael Watts, the owner of Bel Air Construction. Michael is the 4th generation of construction workers in his family. There have been they've been in business over 100 years at Watts Construction. And Michael started in 1981. And according to Michael, he's blessed to do what he loves so passionately. He's 65 and he says he has the energy of a 4-year-old and the endurance of a marathon runner. So how wonderful is that to have all that energy for what you do in your business? At Bel Air Construction, they renovate homes, but more importantly, they transform the families' lives in the spaces that they improve. Michael himself has had over 80,000 face-to-face meetings with people discussing transformations in their home. So I think we're going to learn a lot today from Michael. So Michael, welcome. We're so glad to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So you have quite a story and quite a journey, especially in the more recent years in business. So I really want to just invite you to start with your story.
Okay. Well, the only thing I want to clarify is there have been 100 years of Wattses in construction, but Bel Air Construction is 1981 is when I started it. Okay. Other than that, everything Dr. Sabrina said is correct. And yeah, so it was interesting how I came into working with Dr. Sabrina through Caitlin, but the story kind of starts about 5 years before then. And in business, you have years where you're doing wonderful, and then you have times that you don't do as well. And we had done back in 2000. 15 through 17, we were trying to hire and go big or go home, and it was disastrous, and it was we lost a phenomenal hundreds of thousands of dollars, all the while trying to hire, and we did it very poorly and lost a lot of money, put us in a very grave situation at the beginning of 2017. Sorry, end of 2017, including real estate. We were $1.1 million in debt, with a lot of that being business loans. And for every dollar we had in our bank account, we had $2 in bills. So it was a very, very desperate time. I think that was the word that our CPA used. And so it caused us to have to make drastic decisions. We cut to the bone. We added to my duties. We cut. The sales staff went away, and I became the sales staff. And to do that, I had to double the sales, which I did. And then I also had to be the production manager. So I was working phenomenal hours during this brutal time. There were two groups that helped me. One was Mike Michalowicz, and learning that, his material was so helpful, and Dave Ramsey being another one. But those gave me not only hope, they also gave me strategic plans and tactics in which I could improve. And in that time, in that crucible of time, by me being very close, I was working averaging 85 hours a week. I was working very close on everything. So I was tweaking all the elements of our delivery system, and we were really getting very laser focused on wonderful processes and how we treat the clients. It was a brutal way to do it. And for 3 years, that's pretty much what happened. And I was pretty much the main guy. And then we started building leaders within the company. And that's where Tap the Potential has been so helpful, because now I need to build leaders. It's great that I can do it, but and while I have the energy, I need to build leaders within the company, which is a lot of fun. It's an adventure in itself. So that's kind of how we got to this. And in that, up to date, in 5 years, we've paid down over $800,000. We've put a couple $100,000 in our coffer, so we can pay bills now. Yeah. We've seen a dramatic transformation in our business, and I told Dr. Sabrina, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and that's what happened with Tap the Potential and Dr. Sabrina and Caitlin. So that's how I got involved as I'm coming out of this scenario, and now I need to bring on people, and I need to find a way to do it. And it was the teacher appeared.
Yeah. Oh, we're so honored to have you here with us at Tap the Potential, and your experience has been an incredible journey. Like, I just want to acknowledge you for the gumption and tenacity that it takes to do a turnaround like that. The amount of debt that you paid off in a very short period of time took intense focus, both from you and your wife. You were a team working together, and you knew what you wanted, and you really went after it. And you mentioned Mike Michalowicz. So I'm assuming, was one of the books that you're referencing Profit First?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was listening to that on tape and or on digital as I was driving, and that was very powerful. Just helping me laser focus in on nothing mattered but getting to that profit first. And rather than thinking, well, I'll be profitable when we do this, then we'll get it turned around. So, nope, today what do we need to do today to structure this so it's profitable? And that's been so helpful, and it's moved us a phenomenal amount of net worth, from very, very, very bleak to very, a much better place.
I want to comment on a couple of things that you're sharing here. So just the mindset shift to, I'm not going to be profitable at some point in the future. I'm going to be profitable today. We have to do this today. That's such a powerful mindset shift. And at Tap the Potential, we always talk about small steps forward, taken in a consistent direction, lead to big change over time. That mindset, when you shifted it, it was a small step. Like that day, probably nothing changed for you in that
Mhm.
moment, right? You still
Right.
had the same struggles, the same challenges, but you started taking different intentional action every single day as a result of that. And it led to massive change in a relatively short period of time. I've met very few people who've paid down that much debt in that short a period of time. We see clients that Tap the Potential using Profit First to pay off debt, and there have been large sums paid off. But that the amount that you're describing is probably one of the biggest amounts, and it took incredible tenacity to do that. Caitlin is sharing here, and I want to see if I can show this on the screen. She said that your story is so powerful and it resonates with her so deeply. The transformation that you've been through in your business is inspiring to all of us. Um, the the other piece that I want to just highlight is that you you got into this situation because you wanted to go big or go home. And that hit me when I read that, because I remember being in a place like that myself with Tap the Potential. And it was right before COVID, and things were growing. And there's this excitement when you see things growing and like, okay, we can do more of this. Let's really put our foot on the gas. And I use that comment or that phrase, go big or go home, multiple times. And we ended up with significant debt as well. So, looking back on that experience, what would you say to other business owners who are tempted to go big or go home? What words of wisdom do you have?
I think one of the things that I have learned so clearly with you guys is to have that lean team rather than feeling like I need to add a whole bunch of people and not being critical about who we're bringing into the team. So having a lean team, and then even more importantly, making sure that that team's immutable laws, and we call them core values. So if I'm saying the same thing, that their immutable laws line up with our heartbeat. And so I think that was one of the most powerful things that you guys have taught me, because in the past it's like, just give me somebody that can sell, just give me somebody that knows how to run a job, just give me, I'll deal with their personality. And like that is the kiss of death when you're like that. You bring on people, they disappoint greatly because they don't have your heartbeat, they don't think like you, and you do more damage control and you spend more time wasting. And so that whole go big and or go home was disastrous for us. And so I think focusing more on getting the team and building the team and making sure they're in alignment, and then let growth almost naturally occur, organically occur,
Yeah.
rather than trying to generate it, that would be my advice.
Yes. Yeah. Rather than pushing it, just allowing it with those immutable laws in place. So, Michael, what's one of your favorite core values?
I would say that admitting mistakes are a learning opportunity. Admit it, own it, solve it quickly, and then create a process in which that doesn't happen again. And one of the things that we just have very low tolerance for is people not willing to admit mistakes. There's no fixing that. You can't improve if you won't take responsibility. It's surprising that grown-ups are not willing to admit, hey, that was my fault. It was like, oh, it was this, it was that, it was the other thing. And you will not fit in here. And we've seen some growth in some team members as we've identified that, who in the past have been reticent to admit mistakes. And they're saying, yeah, it was on me. Here's what happened. Here's what I did to fix it. And I think we should do this as an SOP so that it doesn't happen again. And that's what we're seeing. And that's the power of those immutable laws, is that they'll either bring people into closer alignment, so you're all pulling the same way, or it'll push people away and say, we don't belong here, or we'll
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, because your team and you won't tolerate it because it's just not a good fit. So, when a team member who's made a mistake and they come to you and they say, here's what happened, here's how we can fix it and we can improve our process this way, how do you respond to that?
Well, if I see a team member that's pointed in the right direction, then my thing is just making sure that they are in the right direction. But then it's just encouragement and complimenting them, because that's something great. It's we're not gonna. One of our things about when you own that mistake is the minute you own it, people don't berate you.
Yeah.
And we're certainly not going to do it. We're not going to berate you. We're going to encourage you because, yeah, okay, great. That's a good solution. Really appreciate it. Glad that you solved it so quickly. And then it just becomes a dim memory, rather than this big contentious thing. Well, it was your fault. It was my fault. So, yeah, encouragement, I think, is probably the biggest thing.
Oh, that is such a breath of fresh air. One of the things that I've noticed in working with team members, especially team coming in to tap the potential, they're A players, so they're very motivated. They want to do things right, and they really dread and making mistakes, and there's a lot of guilt around making mistakes. And they've been on teams before where they've been chastised for making mistakes, or they've been put down when they wanted to try something new. They've been told that was a bad idea. You messed up. Some of them have been called names before in workplaces. So, actual bullying has gone on. And that's made me extremely aware that it does not come easy for our team members to come forward and bring mistakes to our attention. That the behavior they've learned in the past is to cover it up. And you and I know when team members cover up mistakes, it's going to lead to big problems down the road. And so just to bring this into the beginning of the conversation around your profitability, this impacts your profitability significantly because they're not covering up mistakes that are going to cause rework, customer client complaints down the road, lost customers, all of the chain that comes from that, because now they're feeling comfortable to say, hey, here's what happened. And you're going to point them in the right direction. You're taking a very nurturing and not like permissive stance. And I think that's really important, because just the other day, I was having a conversation with some business owners who were talking about being too permissive and letting things go on too long in the business. And this isn't about being permissive. This is about saying, let's just make sure you're going in the right direction. And I'm here to back you up as you go forward and fix this. Yeah. So, Michael, as you reflect on your own experience and when you started in business, I think when we all start out, we have our ideas about this is how it's going to be. So why did you start in business, and what have you learned? Maybe I know you've learned a lot since then, but maybe what are one or two key lessons that you've learned that you would share with someone who is newer in business?
Yeah, so I started when I was, I think, 22. Anyway, no knowledge, no capital, no sales experience, no connections. And I just thought, I'm a good carpenter and I can run jobs. So I would probably be a really good business, contractor. It's like, well, that was a serious error as far as that goes. But it really was driven out of when I was working with people. I would think if this were my company, I would do it this way. If this were my company, I would do it differently. And I just kept saying that again. So I think I was always I just think the way that I'm wired and the DNA that I have is to be in business and to be the main guy. It's just who I am, and I relish that. It's interesting that we talked about owning mistakes and admitting mistakes and them being a learning opportunity. The first 10 years were brutal. I mean, it was absolutely brutal just trying to learn that. And the other thing is, during that time, I wasn't willing to admit my ignorance. And it was during that time that, of course, when you go in with those ideals and then you get kicked around a lot, and that was another area where I lost a lot of money and had to work really hard. But then I also started learning the business. I learned sales, I learned accounting, I learned profit, I learned all that. And and here's the takeaway is I was willing to listen to people smarter than myself. And
Mm.
that has become something that I didn't do the first 10 years and did start doing, and has been a lifelong process. I'm always who's the most knowledgeable about this particular situation in which I need help. So that's a key thing. Ask for help, be willing to admit your ignorance, question those people, dig deeper. There's so much information available now, and there's so many ways to find it, and tap into folks like, Dr. Sabrina.
Yeah, as you share that, we hear that a lot from the business owners in our programs, that because most of the businesses coming into Tap the Potential are established businesses. The businesses have been around for a long time. And the common thread is they're either not profitable or not as profitable as they want to be, or the business owner is time poor. So doing everything, or it's a combination of those two. And in my research in studying the difference between the entrepreneurs who are thriving, there's 10% of entrepreneurs who are thriving versus the 90% who are burning out. One of the findings that stands out so clearly is those who are thriving are willing to invest monetarily in training for themselves and for their team members. So it's that willingness to admit we don't know what we don't know. And I've reflected a lot on why is it that we entrepreneurs can be pretty stubborn. And I want to share this with you, Michael, and I want your input on it to see if this resonates for you, or maybe you have a different idea around it. But for me, when I started my business, I'm a huge do-it-yourselfer. Like, that independence, like I can figure anything out. I've taught myself how to knit. I can figure out how to run a business. It's all just a new skill. There's resources online. I'll go take this free webinar and that podcast and put it all together and make it work. And it's that do it yourself mentality that I think deprives us from putting enough attention on, well, who can I really learn from? And what you said about who will I go deep with? Who's got the knowledge that I need? Because one of the things I noticed as you came into our program at Tap the Potential is that you went deep, you ask a lot of questions, and you really want to take what's being taught and look at how does this apply in my business? How do I make sense of this? And you asked us for help with that. And those, in my experience, those are the clients that are the most successful with us. It's that engagement, that back and forth. So what are your thoughts on that do-it-yourself mentality? Was that a part of what was going on in your first 10 years? Or was it something different?
We're the last one, we're the last line of defense, or the person that starts and finishes everything. So and this is one of those where our greatest strength is also wrapped up in our greatest weakness, in that we're the ones that are going to do it. And as a result, sometimes we won't ask for that help. And that was my first 10 years, is not seeing the value of, hey, yes, I could grit through this, but maybe Dr. Sabrina has a simpler way, and I can get me there quicker. I'm 65, so while I might have energy, none of us knows how much time we have, and so every bit of time is precious, and so we want to make sure that our time is spent wisely. And when you tap into experts, and which is hard to do because you're so driven, I can make this, I can fix this.
Yeah.
I solve problems all day long. That's all I do, and I can give me a problem, I'll solve it, rather than who can help me. I'm lacking in this area. Who's the expert, or what can I read, or what course can I take, or what webinar can I watch?
Yeah. So I love the point that you're making, that it's all about shortening our learning curve, right? We don't have to go through all the school of hard knocks. Time is short and time is precious. So why do we want to spend years trying to figure out how to hire A players? Hey, there's a book over here. Dr. Sabrina's written this, or she talks about this all the time on the podcast. Maybe I can learn something over here from that. So with that, let's talk about the how to hire the best course, because that's how you came to be involved with us, is you were looking for support to get yourself out of sales, because you love doing it. You're excellent at it. And you want to be able to focus on other things. So, talk a little bit about what drove you to sign up for the How to Hire the Best course and what you learned in there. What's been your experience?
Well, I think it goes to the fact that you have A players, and our A player with whom we were connected was Caitlin
Yeah.
Beaver. And what an A player Caitlin is, and she is just as I was not going to engage to you guys, and it would her tenacity and her communication and her willingness to share information and open the book and help me see what you guys offered was so powerful. And Caitlin is this person who does above and beyond and above and beyond and above and beyond. Just
Yes.
not above and beyond. She just continues to do it. And I've made that comment to you guys several times, is
Mhm.
that um, you have delivered so much more than you promised and continue to deliver. The check's cleared, it's done, and you guys are still delivering.
Mhm.
And so I think number one was your A players, and in Caitlin was the big thing. But I think also what resonated, and it goes back to when the student's ready, the teacher appears, is the importance of having people in alignment with your philosophy, of having people in alignment with your immutable laws and your core values. And yes, you want A players, but they also must be in alignment with that. Boy, that struck a powerful chord that I said, I want a salesperson, I want a sales team that's going to replace me, that's going to have the same heartbeat, that's going to care
Mhm.
the same way I do about the clients, that they're going to be a different personality, they're going to have different skills and different styles maybe, but they're still going to do it the way I say. And then also they're going to care about the client as we do. That's one of the things we really care about our clients. We listen to that as a core principle. We listen to our clients and we really care about them. And so that's getting someone that fits in that was important, and that's what you guys were teaching. And I said the strategy that they're offering is what I need.
Mm.
I have all the other pieces, but the strategy that Dr. Sabrina has is what I need.
As you shared that, I became aware that I think you have a fear that so many of us have when we think about adding members to our team and hiring, and especially when we're looking at bringing someone on to do what we already do so well ourselves. And that is, will they treat our clients the way I would?
Yes.
And as you described Caitlin's interactions with you, one of the things that I'm highly aware of is Caitlin has treated you better than I would be able to,
I think so.
because she's focused in her role. That's what her role is about. Meanwhile, me, the owner, I'm over here doing all the different things. You and I would have interacted, we would have had communication, I'd have shared resources, but the love that you experience from Caitlin is that was her focus. And I think this is so important for us business owners to remember when we go to hire team members, that instead of the fear of they won't do it the way I would do it, we need to ask a powerful question of, what if they do it better?
Yes.
Right?
That's what we
Because
really
they can
want.
focus.
Yeah. I think also is that I realized that if I highlighted our DNA and rather than just said, just give me somebody that'll sell, highlighted our DNA, that was going to be attractional to people that were like-minded, that people that said, I want, that's how I think. That's what we want to have people on the team. Yeah.
Yes, and that's it. It's the DNA piece. And the other key kind of learning point when it comes to hiring is to think about the role that you're hiring for and the results that you need from that role, and then to hire individuals who have the strengths to deliver those results exceptionally well day in and day out. So anyone who's ever interacted with Caitlin knows that she loves to serve. She loves people and she loves building relationships, which that's key to this role that she's in. So I know that your focus in the How to Hire the Best course is the sales role. And the other really fun thing about the How to Hire the Best course is once you've created a role for and hired for it in your business, you can take the same principles and apply it to any role in the business. So currently focused on the sales role. What have you identified as being some of the key personality strengths and qualities that you're looking for in someone who's going to do this?
So, and this, I think, something you said in one of the lessons caused me to do this, and I wanted to write down what it was that I think made me successful. So I did that exercise, and the first word that came is trust. And people trust me in two arenas. Number one, they trust me from an integrity standpoint. And I guess they just sense that. If they drop a $100 bill, I'm going to be chasing them. Here you drop it.
Wow.
And that's just who I am. And so they tend to sense that. So they trust my integrity, but they also trust my competence. And those were two key things that, hey, if Michael says you need this particular product or method of doing this, and he explained it why it was, then let's go ahead with that. So trust was the first one. And ironically, the way that I get people to trust me is I ask them a lot of questions. And if we do a conversation and I'm selling somebody, they're talking 80% of the time. I'm priming them with, it's actually reverse of what we're doing today. And I'm the quiet one and I'm just asking questions, and people respond so well to that. People are so hungry to be heard that when you give them, and I listen intently, I really try to capture, I try to hear what they're saying and what's driving this, because we realize, we realize that our business is about transforming homes and lives, ultimately transforming lives. It's not about doing beautiful kitchens or building beautiful additions or building stunning bathrooms. It's about transforming people's lives. And when people sense that that's what you're trying to do and you can iterate that, I think that becomes very attractional. So trust being the first one, listening being the second one. And then that paints the target, and that helps you. Those are probably the key ones that I came up with. I'd also say the ability to the ability to be impervious to the pain of rejection. It's part of what we do. I don't care what we do, but there's going to be failure. If you're a baseball player, you strike out, you fail 7 times out of 10, you're a Hall of Famer. And we have to see it that way. And I had a client today. It was a small repair, it wasn't a big deal, but they said, "Oh, we're going with another contractor." It's like, in my mind, it's like, well, you're making a mistake, but I wish you the best. I didn't fail. It's part of the deal, and being impervious to the pain of rejection. And I think, and just being able to keep on going with the same kind of enthusiasm is those things. If you had to boil it down to 3 things, that's probably the top 3.
So that's so powerful, because you have just laid out what are the significant qualities that you're looking for. And so an A player who's hearing that will say, "Oh, yeah, that's me. I love to ask
Mhm.
questions. I love to listen. And I'm okay with rejection. I can, pull my big girl pants on and go forward, even though it hurts in the moment. You got to go forward." And the trust, the integrity. And you gave the example of, if someone drops $100 bill, I'm going to be the one following them down the street saying, "Hey, you dropped this," instead of putting it in your pocket. As you're hiring and you go through the interview process and you share those stories, paying attention to how the candidates respond to that is very illuminating, because the people who resonate with that will be leaning forward. Their eyes are going to light up, because they're going to feel like, "I found a place that gets me, that appreciates my good qualities that I have," versus just kind of glosses over them. And those things don't really matter around here. And so this, starting with the end in mind, which is something we teach in the How to Hire the Best course, being really clear on the A player that you're looking for, is incredibly powerful, because you use it as you write your job ads. You use it as you talk about your team publicly on social media, in newsletters, and in videos like this, because A players are attracted to that. Like attracts like. So
Mhm.
Michael, what are some of the other simple things? And that's really what I want to drive the point home on is none of this is hard. None of it is expensive to do. This is just getting some thinking work going on here and clarifying some things. So, what are some other simple things that you are doing in your company to make it a great place to work for your A players?
Well, I think a couple things, but one of the things I think that we're starting to do is that I'm seeing my role as a uh, building leaders within the company. So what I'm doing is telling the things of what I would do and why I would do, and I'm saying to the whole team, I'm building leaders, and there's opportunity, and I'm giving them leadership opportunities, and I'm complimenting them, and I'm encouraging them in those, and I'm handing them over rather than meddling with them when they understand what it is and have a good handle on it and accomplish that. And so I think just that speaking to that and saying that um, when you're 65, people are always asking you, when are you going to retire? When are you going to sell the business? And I'm telling the team, I'm building leaders. And whatever I do, building leaders will make it more safe for you guys to have it's going to be a better company. When it depends on me, I might be able to sell $317,000 a month, but shouldn't we have other team members that can do that because it's going to make it safer for the 40-year-olds that are working here?
That's it. It's the job security that's being created for your team members when you're being intentional to replace yourself in the business and build that redundancy into the business. And any role needs that kind of redundancy because you don't want any team member feeling like they can't be sick or they can't take a vacation. So I love how you're bringing your team into that awareness that, hey, I'm doing this for you guys. I want to make it more sustainable around here for all of us. What else are you doing?
Yeah, I think we are using that word so much as far as the team. I think that has just become so much a part of our vernacular rather than saying I did something. We're talking about the team. So just reinforcing that.
Yeah, that it's the team and not I.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
the we language.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's number one, but just kind of repeating that. But the other thing that you guys got me doing, which was the careers page, and we've been working on that for the last probably almost a month. And we saw you gave several examples which were absolutely wonderful, and we were seeing these companies, and it was like, I love what I'm doing, but that'd be a cool place to work. And I thought, our page isn't like that. And so I said, I want our page to be like that. So we've been working on that as a team. We had a Hawaiian day, and everybody, even me, I wore Hawaiian stuff. One of our guys wore a grass skirt. It was a lot of fun. So that team camaraderie and doing things that we may not have done, but then also interviewing the team. Why do you work here? And that was really insightful for me to hear. And one of the words that kept coming back was flexibility. That people like the flexibility that they have. And we're kind of like a very autonomous group where just get it done. And, if you want to come in at 7 or come in at 9, I don't care. Just get it done and just make sure that everybody's communicated with and so forth. So they love that flexibility, but being more intentional in that and going through that, creating that page also just helped us, I think, even sharpen and be more aware of our communication, our interplay. I think it's been a great team building exercise. We've had a blast, and we're getting ready to go live with that pretty soon in the next probably week.
I watched that video about an hour or so before our time together here today, and it is an incredible video. And one of the things that I love so much about it is your team members sharing why they love working there. Yeah. And it's different perspectives and it's different personalities. And so that's so much more powerful than just going to a careers page and seeing, here are the benefits, here's what's required for the job. And this is a story, and you're inviting people in. And one of the messages that comes through so clearly in your video is we are about transforming lives. And I hear over and over from each of your team members in that video how what they do connects to that. And so this is one of the big lessons in hiring A players that we teach in the How to Hire the Best course, is that you, the business owner, want to create your compelling story for why you do what you do. You need to create it, you need to tell it over and over, but you're not the hero in that story. Your team members are the hero in solving the biggest problems for your top clients and customers. And you have done that in your video so beautifully, pulling all of that together. And the other thing I want to acknowledge is you are an A player in the How to Hire the Best course, because when we teach the How to Hire the Best course, we have people who repeat it. Because once you sign up, you can go through it as many times as you want. So, you know what Michael said, the check's cleared and they're still delivering, because we want you to succeed in hiring A players. And you're not going to hire an A player in 5 weeks' time. The course is, 5 weeks long. So we're prepared to continue to support you through that process. And we know you want to hire more than one A player. So come back through the next time. And then the other cool thing that happens in the How to Hire the Best course is that we will have A players who come in and take the course. They were hired by the business owner who took the course maybe 6 or 9 months ago. Now those A players are recruiting more A players for the business. The business owner is not doing it anymore. And so we let your team go through it as many times as you want so that they can help you. And
wow,
what you are experiencing, and when I said you're like an A player in this course, is we always tell people there's like 2 levels to do this course. So there's, build out your skeletal system for hiring A players, just do the basics, and then come through and put the flesh and bones on it. So most people don't do a video in the first month or 2 after doing the course, but you have with your team, and it's incredibly powerful. And I think that's going to be a big boost as you get that out there in your social media and your careers page. I would love to hear from you, Michael, as you came into the How to Hire the Best course. What were you pleasantly surprised by in the course?
I think the thing that kept coming again and again was that I was getting so much more than I thought I was getting. And this started in the course material and the amount of in those lessons. I was taking notes, I was screen capturing, I was reviewing those, I was reviewing them with team members, but it was so much material that you gave. It was so much more than what I thought I was buying. And then again, Caitlin, I feel like she's almost on their payroll or something. She's just, offering and helping and stuff way outside of your scope. Although it's ultimately, like, we're about transforming, you're about how to hire the best, and if it relates to that, you're going to have a way to help. So I think just how you guys consistently delivered much more than I expected, and I have high expectations.
Yes.
I might want to be mellow and everything, but my expectations are really high when I deal with people.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that. And that is our intention. And it's because we want you to succeed in hiring A players. We know that you being able to hire A players is critical to you taking your life back from your business. That's one of the biggest roadblocks for any business owner and what keeps them stuck in the business. And if we can do something that we love doing, we love teaching this, because we know the transformation that awaits you on the other side of it. And we know that it's going to have a huge impact in your business. Michael, you've really hit on what makes us different at Tap the Potential, and I appreciate you spotlighting that so well. I want to spotlight you. How are you different in your industry?
Well, our industry has a very high failure rate. Home improvement is the number 3 complaint in America, behind auto repair and online scams. It is the number 1 complaint for when you talk about severity of problems. So it's a field littered with well-meaning and competent people. Just showing up and doing what you're saying kind of puts you in the top 10%. That said, we never looked at those around us as our competitors. If I'm trying to think of service, I'm thinking of the Ritz-Carlton. How would a concierge at the Ritz-Carlton handle? And I use that example even with our team. And we call ourselves a concierge contractor. And I want to compare ourselves to Hyatt or the Ritz Carlton or IBM or anybody that would be just a high level of. I don't want to compare us to Chuck in the Truck or any of those others. It's too low of a bar. So let's also not only see them as our competition, but let's also be very concerned about the competition that we don't see, that's running behind us, that's sprinting. And I'm always concerned. Okay, who's got technology better than we do? Who's managing clients better than we might be doing? What do we need to do? What do we lack? And so we're constantly measuring ourselves also against ourselves. How can we be better, rather than trying to look at the 90%, which are so bad?
Mm.
We're trying to really stand out either outside of the industry, or just how much better can we be than we were last month.
That is so attractive to A players, because A players want to better themselves. They are always looking for opportunities to grow. And so your mindset is focused on how are we going to do it better? And having that high standard to aspire to really creates a challenge that pulls A players in. And so I anticipate that as you build your careers page out, others are going to come to your careers page and say, I know I have my own business, but I'd really like to work at Michael's company. This is a cool place to be, because that's what it's about, is about attracting those A
Mm-hmm.
players. So I so appreciate you being here and sharing your story with us, Michael. There's lots of good nuggets in this, lots of good learning for other business owners. And I want to just say, for those of you listening, if you want A players and you really are excited and inspired by what you're hearing Michael talk about, check out the How to Hire the Best course at tapthepotential.com/course. We would love to welcome you into the course and love on you the way we've loved on Michael, and just help you get those A players on your team. And I also want to remind everyone that we record live every Friday, 11:30 Central. So come back next Friday and join us for another great conversation. Michael, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. And thank you for all you do.
Oh.